All right, so Forest are now being linked with a Bundesliga striker who's been linked with the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool. Welcome to your transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Forest news. Coming up, we'll talk to you about a striker being linked with a move to Forest in this coming transfer window. We'll give you the latest on Morgan Gibbs-White and his continuous links to Manchester City. And I've got to say, I've been loving your guys' comments on how much you hate Rob, how much you hate Ant, how much you love Rob, how much you hate Ant on the old clips from Gore. So make sure you check that out as well. If you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you are new. And let's jump into this news. So it's clear, and we all know, we've all been saying, or at least I've been saying since January, Forest should have bought a striker in the January transfer market to help us push on and secure Champions League spots. But hey ho, no money was spent, well, apart from the couple of future investments we did. But the transfer window is now starting to heat up. And this transfer window, in my opinion, is going to be one of the craziest we've seen in years, if not the craziest. You've got so many teams looking for a rebuild. You got teams pushing into Europe that weren't expected, aka Forest. And there's just got to be money spent all over the place. Everyone knows how to get around PSR now with PSR parties, like we did with Newcastle, like Villa did with Chelsea, and so on and so forth. Well, apart from Leicester, who again absolutely shoved it. But anyway, so Forest now being linked with a striker from Wolfsburg. His name is Mohamed Amoura, the Algerian player, 25 years old. He's had a decent return at Wolfsburg. He's played 31 games and scored 10 goals for them. He's currently valued, though, on the market at 32 million, but Wolfsburg are talking about a 50 million pound, 50 euro, fee for him, which is about 43 million pounds. Now, the player himself, he's a good player who can play as a 9, or for me, out on the left-hand side. He's 5'6", which I think is a red flag for me, and very good pace, good agility, good balance. I honestly, personally think he's a scoring winger is how I would best describe him. Now, obviously, Forest have had their history with all these Arab players, I think back to the Fawaz era, but this one isn't one of those duds that could potentially come in. So let's not worry about that for now. But is he worth the valuation that's being put on his head? So let's look at a couple of these articles. So there's reports saying that Forest are targeting Mohamed Amoura. He could leave Wolfsburg this season if they receive a substantial fee. The Algerian joined the Bundesliga side on loan from Union last summer before joining Wolfsburg on a permanent basis for a fee of 15 million euros. Now, the German outlet suggests that Amoura can leave for around 15 million euros. Liverpool and Arsenal have shown an interest in Amoura, who scored 10 goals and created 12 assists in the 31 Bundesliga games this season. 25-year-old registered successive assists in the final 2 league games of this season. Amoura has also had interest from within the Bundesliga, and if Wirtz leaves, which we'll talk about in a second, Leverkusen this summer is the club that potentially could use that money to sign him. So that's the talk there. They've also got quotes from the sporting director saying that there has been interest, etc., in him, and that Forest are one of the teams that are interested to sign him. I don't know on this one is my answer, guys, because not to be heightist, no offense, Ez, but like 5'6" in the Premier League is pretty small, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's like you're going from a Chris Wood height down to a Amoura / Ez height. It just feels like there's a big jump in there. But having said that, I've always been one who said that you need a different alternative striker to what you get in Chris Wood. Chris Wood can hold the ball up, sometimes can win the ball in the air, and obviously bag goals from in and around the box. But one thing he's lacking is pace and that agility, where I think Amoura does bring it in. But I've just seen too many of these Bundesliga strikers flop when they've moved. And you guys know I'm a big fan of the Bundesliga, especially for their defenders. I think there's a lot of good defenders in the Bundesliga. For 42 mil, I just think we can do better. I think we can do better. Technically, you could get yourself a Visser for less money than that. You could, if Man U don't get him, go for a Delap. At 30 million, I think there are better options available. But the fact that Liverpool have looked at him, Arsenal have looked at him and are now not interested in him kind of tells you the level where he's at. This is probably the right level that Forest could look at. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, right? I've just still got in my head this whole thing that we should have got Champions League. We may still get Champions League. And we should be getting, Gyökeres and whatnot. I'm joking before people start clipping that up. But it's just a little frustrating. Now, 42 million for a striker isn't the end of the world. I mean, we paid about 40 million in total with add-ons for Gibbs-White, and we do have the money to spend. Forest are under no threat of PSR whatsoever come this transfer window, so we are free to spend how we want. So that's the story on the striker. Would you take him or not? Amoura from Wolfsburg to Forest. Is this a yay or a nay for you guys? Now, we need to talk about Gibbs-White. As I mentioned in that report there, Wirtz is probably leaving Leverkusen, most likely going to Bayern Munich right now. Now, as we've told you before, he's been heavily linked to the likes of Man City and Liverpool. Man City looking for a Kevin De Bruyne replacement and have shortlisted Wirtz and Morgan Gibbs-White as two potentials. Now, Man City came out yesterday, or should I say reports came out yesterday to say that Man City feel Wirtz's total package will be in and around 300 million euros, which they think is overpriced for the player. And obviously that's not his transfer fee, but that would be signing on fee, agent fee, salary, etc. So they think it's too much. And now the reports are strengthening to say that Man City are kind of hotting up on Morgan Gibbs-White in terms of him now being their number one choice if this whole Wirtz thing falls through, which it looks like it does, to be that almost replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. Now, is Gibbs-White good enough to replace Kevin De Bruyne? No. Probably in his current form, I would say yes, compared to De Bruyne, who's had a stinky season for me. But in terms of what they're looking for is that prime De Bruyne. And Gibbs-White is far from a prime De Bruyne. I think even Gibbs-White's biggest fans would probably agree with that. But what they might end up doing is buying a Gibbs-White to play him in the 8 and then look at a potential another 10. You got Cherky being listed on there and what have you. But these reports tend to come out a couple of days before Forest have to play a big game. And shock horror, they are out again now, just before we play the big game against Chelsea. By the way, we've got plenty of build-up coming for that game, so stay tuned for all of that. So am I believing this stuff on Gibbs-White? Not really, because what I'm hearing is that Gibbs-White isn't really pushing for a move away from the City ground. It would be a club decision if that was going to happen. So what do I mean by that? If Man City came and offered over the odds, then Forest would sit down and consider that bid and think, you know what, this deal is too good to refuse. We can strengthen here. We can maybe do this for the stadium, etc., etc. I don't think that if Man City came at, say, the book price, let's just call his book price £65 million, and Forest rejected it, it's not going to be a scenario where Gibbs-White is like, look, there's an offer on the table for me. I want to go. I am desperate to go. So that's kind of what I'm hearing about Gibbs-White, which I think is shows just another, layer on his personality. He's done an interview the other day, I think it was on Opta, and I thought he spoke really well. I mentioned how well he spoke after our last game against West Ham, speaking very professionally for me. So I expect nothing less, and I do believe what I've been hearing about his attitude towards staying at Forest. I think this will come down to the club, and firstly, Man City will need to make an offer. If that offer is substantial enough, then Forest will sit down and consider it and make the decision there. But I don't think it will be one of those ones that's pushed by Gibbs-White, which just puts the strength really in Forest's hands. So those are the two kind of big stories currently in the wonderful world of Forest. Get your thoughts in on both of those. Would you take Amoura at Forest from Wolfsburg? And do you think Gibbs-White will stay? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, that brings you up to date with your Forest news. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you are new. And I'm on, what we got, tabletop football over on Loaded Mag tonight. And then me, Lux, and Just Joe over on Joe's channel tonight at 8. They're going to have a bit of banter. That should be fun. So make sure you check it all out. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.